now, I'm definitely a lot more careful, and I would say the exciting aspect from it has completely gone, and it's been replaced with like, oh my God, this is really annoying. Why is this person doing that particular thing or driving in this particular way? Taiwan is an awesome country, and I have made numerous videos in the past which focus specifically on the positive aspects of Taiwan. Obviously, it isn't perfect, but then again, is there actually such a thing as perfect? In this video, I'd like to focus on something which I think is quite important and something which definitely needs a lot of improvement in Taiwan, and that is, of course, the driving environment in Taiwan. Not too long ago, I came across an article in Taiwan about a drunk driver who pretty much plowed into a cyclist and ended up killing the guy. The drunk driver then fled the scene, but was luckily found a few hours later by police officers. And when they gave him a breathalyzer, he failed the breathalyzer miserably. Now, this story so far isn't that surprising. However, the thing which really blew my mind was the fact that even though he fled the scene and killed someone, he was literally released the same day on bail for 200,000 NT, which is around $7,000 US. So basically what this means is that you can get drunk, go drive a car, kill someone, pay 200,000 NT, and walk away scot-free literally the same day. This is obviously wrong, this is flawed, and when I read this, I was actually pretty shocked. So I began thinking, I was like, how is this possible? Is this something that happens very often in Taiwan? Is this guy well connected? Does his dad know a politician or a police captain or something? How can you literally do something like this, like kill someone and then walk away within 24 hours and all they have to pay is $7,000 US? That is just unacceptable. However, on the other hand, driving in Taiwan has long been an issue. I remember my first year in Taiwan very well. I arrived a little over 15 years ago, and boy was it different to anything I had experienced prior to coming to Taiwan. The first year for many foreigners in Taiwan, I think, is probably in many ways the most exciting and most interesting year because literally everything is a novelty. However, as the years go by, a lot of that novelty does wear off. Now, that doesn't mean it all wears off, because even now, after 15, 16, 17 plus years of living here, when I'm walking down the street or when I'm traveling around Taiwan or just, going about my own business in Taiwan, I do still come across things which I think like, wow, that's cool. Like, look at that temple, or look at that architecture, or look at this food being made on the street, or something like that. Okay, so there is still a novelty, but a lot of the novelty that was there in the first year isn't really there anymore for most foreigners in Taiwan. So basically what I'm trying to say here is that as time goes by, something that might have been quite interesting and exciting during your first year will not be very interesting and exciting 5 or 10 years down the line. And in fact, quite the opposite. You might even find that exact thing to be a little bit annoying or unacceptable. And I think driving is quite a common one here, because when I first got on a scooter, I thought, wow, this is exciting. I mean, yeah, it's a little bit dangerous and a little bit sketchy, and wow, that bus came really close to me, but overall it was very exciting. Now, I'm definitely a lot more careful, and I would say the exciting aspect from it has completely gone, and it's been replaced with like, oh my God, this is really annoying. Why is this person doing that particular thing or driving in this particular way? In fact, driving in Taiwan is such an issue that the annual amount of traffic-related fatalities in Taiwan are actually higher than in Japan, a country with a population of 125 million plus people, as opposed to Taiwan, which just has a population of around 23.5 million people. There are, of course, several reasons as to why this is. Firstly, Taiwan is heavily developed, has a massively high population density, and there are currently an estimated 14 million registered scooters in Taiwan. Add to that number trucks, buses, taxis, cars, and other vehicles, and you have yourself an insane mixture of chaos on the roads in Taiwan. I would say that besides the fact that the roads are quite densely populated during certain times of the day and on certain days, just in general though, I think it's the scooters and motorbikes, but scooters in particular, that make driving in Taiwan quite complicated and definitely more dangerous, especially if you are on a scooter. You have to be extra vigilant when driving in Taiwan. Many drivers are pushy and aggressive and will drive quite dangerously with little regard for others on the road. Scooters on sidewalks, in parks, or on cycling paths and other places in which they are prohibited from riding are also incredibly annoying. In fact, just today I went cycling with my family, and while we were cycling on a relatively narrow cycling path, a blue truck came zooming in the opposite direction. Now, my understanding is that this truck was probably, I think, doing some kind of maintenance work on the park, so they were allowed to be there. But they were driving, in my opinion, quite quickly, especially considering the fact that it's a cycling path and it's full of families and children and just people cycling. And I was like, wow, okay, so fine, let's just give them the benefit of the doubt and assume that they are allowed to be there. Shouldn't they drive a little bit slower and more cautiously? I mean, they were driving pretty fast considering the circumstances. There have been so many times when I'm walking or cycling in a park and a scooter will literally come out of nowhere and zoom by myself or my children and miss us by literally inches. And I have to be honest with you, it is incredibly infuriating because I specifically go to these places so I don't have to worry about scooters or vehicles. But alas, it is very difficult to avoid the dreaded scooter in Taiwan, as they seem to make their way into everywhere. I mean, for fuck's sake, they're not even supposed to be there in the first place. I promise you, it just makes my blood boil, especially because it's putting people's lives at risk unnecessarily. Like, it's completely unnecessary, it's easily avoidable, but people still do it. Although Taiwan's public transportation is pretty amazing, it is still good to see more and more MRTs being built, bus stations being built, and bus routes being created and things like that, because the more public transportation that people have access to in Taiwan, that is going to help to ease the traffic problems in Taiwan and reduce the amount of traffic on the road, generally speaking. There are two main problems. The first problem is that Taiwan's traffic laws are not always heavily enforced or not enforced enough. And the second problem is the general attitude of people who drive in Taiwan. So let's take a look at the first one. Why aren't the traffic rules enforced enough? Well, technically, Taiwan's laws on paper are actually quite progressive, but they are not enforced enough. I'm not entirely sure why they aren't enforced enough. That's a separate issue, but the fact of the matter, in my opinion, is that they are not enforced enough, because I have seen people break the traffic laws and rules with a police officer in the sort of nearby vicinity. They see them do it. Sometimes they'll pull them over, but other times they will not. Of course, this does depend on the location, because traffic laws are much more heavily enforced in certain areas compared to other areas. I've also heard people say, well, listen, Nathan, if you don't like it, you should just leave. Get out of here. We don't need your negativity. Well, that's the thing. This is not a good attitude to have. The reason I'm talking about this issue in the first place is because I love Taiwan and I want this to improve, because when people come here, like foreigners, for example, and they experience the traffic here, this is something that they are going to complain about. They are going to go back to their own countries and they are going to talk about the traffic situation in Taiwan, and that is ultimately going to give Taiwan a bad reputation. Obviously, I'm sure that is something that Taiwan would like to avoid. So I think if I can talk about it and hopefully bring it to the attention of more people in Taiwan, then hopefully, as time goes by, things could perhaps gradually improve. Many drivers in Taiwan are also not very courteous and considerate towards other people on the road. They will push, cut in, and literally risk their lives to overtake you in a very dangerous place so that they can arrive at the traffic light, 2 seconds before you. They will ignore traffic lights, occasionally use indicators, and show very little regard for the lives of other people on the road. I hardly ever see drivers being courteous, polite, and considerate towards other drivers on the road. It does happen, but it's very, very rare. Even if you're just trying to cross a zebra crossing and there are cars turning, generally they are going to try push in front of you and cut you off, even though you as the pedestrian have the right of way. When people in Taiwan are not behind a wheel, they are very polite and friendly, and they're absolutely fantastic and wonderful people. But as soon as they get behind a wheel, a switch flips. The driving environment in Taiwan could be so much better if the laws were consistently enforced and if people could just be a little bit more courteous, polite, and considerate towards each other. In conclusion, I love Taiwan, and this is why I'm making this video, because I hope that I can see things improve in Taiwan. That's the whole reason I'm making this video, because if no one says anything about it and no one does anything about it, things will probably just get worse, because everyone else will think, well, people just accept it the way it is, so why bother changing it? But I'm pretty sure that a lot of people in Taiwan, both foreigners and locals alike, would like to see things improve in regards to the driving environment in Taiwan. Okay, everybody, that's it from me. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.